Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and today I'm going to share some books that I bought in Edinburgh. I went down to Edinburgh for a couple of days to see some friends, and while I was there I used it as a very good excuse to do some book shopping. I used to live in Edinburgh for about 4 years, and I recently moved up to the Highlands, well, like a year ago. And since moving to the Highlands of Scotland, there are no amazing bookshops, to be honest. There's like a very small Waterstones in a town about 15 minutes from here, but it mainly stocks like Scottish tourist books. I live in a very touristy area, so yeah, it's not great for book shopping. And in terms of secondhand bookshops, there is like one within a half-hour drive, and it's not amazing. So anytime I do go to the city, I use it as an excuse to stock up on books. So I have got quite a big haul, which is probably not ideal considering I do have a lot of books already on my shelf that I'm trying to work my way through. However, I've not been book shopping properly like this since maybe December, maybe even before that. So I don't feel too guilty about this. These are all books that I'm excited to get to. I will leave a list in the description of all of the bookshops that I went to. I mainly went to secondhand bookshops just because there are lots of amazing independent bookshops in Edinburgh that I can leave a list below, that I love. But I have a bit of an issue when I go to independent bookshops or just bookshops that sell new books, that I have a bit of like selection paralysis where there's so many options that I like want to read everything, and obviously because the books are more expensive I can't afford to buy very many, and I just spend hours looking and not being able to decide on anything. I feel like secondhand bookshops, because when you go in, a lot of the stuff you're maybe less interested in, it then allows you to pick out the gems that you're like, oh, that looks really good, oh, that looks really good. I find it much easier to make a decision in a secondhand bookshop. Also, the books are a lot cheaper. I can afford to buy like 5 books in a bookshop instead of one book new. And also you get really cool editions of things that you've never seen before in secondhand bookshops. So I mainly went to bookshops in Stockbridge. I used to live in Stockbridge, so I know all of the bookshops really well down there. There are 3 main bookshops that I went to that just stock books. They're not like charity shops with clothes and stuff as well. And then I went to the Oxfam bookshop in Morningside as well, which is like the complete opposite side of the city. But I would say that from my experience in Edinburgh, those are the best secondhand bookshops. I also went to Toppings, which is a really cool, I don't think it's independent, they have another one in Bath, but it's quite a small chain of bookshops, and it's really cool. It's like the one with all the ladders that you can climb up, and they like give you a free tea or coffee so you can sit and have a browse through the books. So it's a really cool bookshop as well. So yeah, I will share what I bought. So I'd say that most of the secondhand books I bought were between like £2 and £3. So I didn't spend loads of money on books. I think the total of this came to about £30, and I got 9 books for myself, so that's pretty good. So the first bookshop I went to is the St Columba's Hospice bookshop in Stockbridge, and I got 3 books there. So the first one I picked up, I've never seen this book before. It's called Meeting the Devil, and it's a London Review of Books, like selection of essays. I really like the London Review of Books, and I really like all of the articles that they publish. During lockdown, my boyfriend got furloughed, and he got a subscription to the LRB because he was like getting paid but just not working. And he spent like days and days just reading all of the articles. So at that point, I read quite a lot of the LRB articles, and I really like the variety of them. This is a selection of articles by different authors, all about autobiography. So it's got, I'll just read some of the authors that I recognise their names. So it's got Anne Enright, Julian Barnes, Hilary Mantel, Andrew O'Hagan, Edward Said. So yeah, quite a lot of very famous authors, and I think this is like from, going back years, some of them. It sort of seems like a variety of topics. It says that someone, Jenny Diskey imagines her own burial, Hilary Mantel tackles a strong man in her hospital bed, Julian Barnes writes about not getting the Booker Prize, etc, etc. So it's just like sort of autobiographical essays. I really like this sort of thing for discovering new authors, and just I like the variety of essays in this sort of thing. So I don't know when this is from. Let me just look. So this is first published in 2013, so yeah, like over 10 years ago now. So yeah, I think it would just be really interesting to read some of these, see if there are any authors I like that I'd like to read more from. Then I picked up Justine by Lawrence Durrell. I'm quite annoyed with this one because I picked up this book in the first bookshop I went to, and then the second bookshop I went to, they had this book but in a much cooler edition. But I was like, oh, never mind. This has been on my radar for a while. This is part of his Alexandria quartet, which is, well, 4 books set in Alexandria. I think they're all sort of set just like pre-World War One, or like the 1910s, 1920s, I think. And I've like wanted to give this a go, but I'm a little bit dubious because I think that they all sort of deal with sort of romantic obsession, and I'm not sure how well that's going to have aged coming from a man talking about a woman, you know. So I didn't. You can buy them all as like one bind up, but it's quite a big book. So I thought I would give the first one a go, see how I got on with it, and then if I like it, then I've got 3 more to get to, so that'd be great. So I really don't know too much about this one. It says the tragic story of the mysterious and fascinating Justine and those whose lives she touched in pre-war Alexandria is told by her lover, an impoverished Irish teacher who has sought refuge across the Mediterranean in Greece. So I think this could be really interesting. I don't really think I've read anything set in Alexandria. It seems like quite an interesting time period. Yeah, I'm just interested to see how it goes, but I'm a little bit worried it might be too sort of navel-gazy, like obsessive romantic type writing. But it's quite short, so I'm excited to give this one a go. The last book I bought in that bookshop was The Emigrants by W.G. Sebald. I read Austerlitz by this author last year, like late last year, and I liked it, but I didn't love it, like compared to, I'd heard lots of people say how amazing it was. And I think it maybe does something quite interesting with the story, because there are lots of pictures throughout it and it makes it read as if it's a real story, but I don't think it is. And I think that was quite like groundbreaking at the time. You know, it's like got a picture of a young boy that makes you think that it's the author, but I don't think it is. I think it's just a random photo of a boy he found. This book is about, it's actually the same, it also has pictures throughout it. So this book is about 4 Jewish emigres in the 20th century. So I think it's split up into like sections where it discusses each of their lives. And it says, his dreamlike prose begins to draw their stories. The 4 narratives merge into one overwhelming evocation of exile and loss. So yeah, I'm just really interested to read more by him. I quite fancy the Rings of Saturn as well. But yeah, I saw this one and I was like, okay, this is a good opportunity to try another one of his books and see how I got on, because sometimes I think when you read more than one of an author's books, you can draw parallels between them and you get more out of the first book when you then read the second, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what he was doing with this. We'll see. And the next bookshop I went to was the Oxfam bookshop in Stockbridge, and I picked up 2 books there. It's also a really good bookshop. It has quite a good variety of classics, and also a lot of the bookshops in Stockbridge seem to receive a lot of proof copies of books, or like brand new releases that look new. So I don't know if some bookshops maybe donate some of their unsold stock to the charity shops. I'm not sure, but they're always like brand new things. I didn't pick up any brand new things, but it just seems weird. So the first book I got is The Well of Loneliness by Radclyffe Hall. I really liked this edition of this book. Like, I've seen this book in charity shops many times, but quite often the editions are like not very nice. Not that I always care about that, but I just, when I saw this one and it's like really nice, it's like brand new as well. I think, well, it definitely looks in very good condition. This is like a classic queer book. I think it's meant to be very sad, which is kind of what put me off reading it before. But I think it deals with a lesbian relationship. But when I was reading the back of the book, I was like, this actually does sound really good. I think just the fact that it was sad had made me not want to pick it up. So it says, Stephen Gordon, named by a father desperate for a son, is not like other girls. She hunts, she fancies, she reads books, wears trousers, and longs to cut her hair. I think it's going to be a really interesting exploration of sexual identity in the sort of early 20th century. This book was written in 1928, so it's almost 100 years old. So yeah, I've not really read very many queer classics, so I'm quite interested to get to this one. And yeah, just the fact that this book was like such a nice addition made me really want to pick it up. If you've watched all of my unread books on my TBR video, you will notice that I have Hopscotch by Julio Cortazar on my physical TBR. And normally my rule is that if I've not read an author before, I don't buy a second book by them until I've read the first one, because it's just, I guess it's a bit stupid. You don't know whether you're going to like them, so why would I buy 3 books by someone and then I hate their first book? However, I did break my own rule because I got Blow Up and Other Stories by Julio Cortazar. Now, the reason I picked this up is because I'm quite intimidated by Hopscotch. It's a book that seems to sort of play with form. You can read it either like back to front, or you can jump from, like, it tells you which chapters you can jump to make a different narrative out of the story. But it's quite a long book, it's almost 500 pages. So I'm a little bit nervous about it, and I thought maybe if I started with some of his short stories, I might get a better idea of what he's trying to do as a writer, and then it will seem less intimidating. This is my idea, so this is why I broke my rule for this. I've also, like, Blow Up as a story is, there's a film that's been made out of it, and it's sort of one of the short stories to read. I've heard it on lists of like the best short stories, so I thought maybe that's a better place to start with his work. So I'm going to try and give this one a go quite soon, because I need to read Hopscotch before the end of the year, which means I need to get to this before that. So yeah, I'm intrigued by this. Then I got 4 books from the Oxfam in Morningside. They had a really good selection of books. I could have bought way more. In fact, in all of these bookshops, I picked up so many books that I really had to try and whittle it down, because I was travelling by train. I did not want to be carrying, I was carrying a lot of books, but I did not want to be carrying even more than that. So the first book I got was I Served the King of England by Bohumil Hrabal. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name. This, again, is a really cool edition of this book. It's like a party scene on it. So this is a Czech author, he's sort of like a classic Czech author. I've heard that his books are quite comic. I don't really read much comic writing. I feel like I do read quite a lot of older books, so it's nice to find a sort of more classic author that has a comic style. It says that this is a book about a hotel waiter who rises to become a millionaire and then loses it all again against the backdrop of events in Prague. So yeah, I'm just interested to see what the writing style is like in this book. I think it could be quite different from anything I've read before. And yeah, this is a book that's been on my radar for a while. So when I saw it in this really nice edition, I was like, okay, I need to just pick this up. And then another book that has been on my radar for a while, and that I actually almost bought new, maybe like a year ago, and then I don't know why I just didn't. Trieste by Dasa Drindic. This is also a Czech book, I think. Let me just check. No, it's not. This is a Croatian book. This is a sort of Holocaust narrative where an old woman's obsessive search for her son. So I think that her son goes missing during the Holocaust and she's sort of trying to track him down. I think it's going to be very interesting, because I opened it at this page and it has like pages and pages of names of Holocaust victims. I think it's going to be very sad. And this is another book, I guess, quite similar to the Emigrants. It has pictures and stuff through it. It seems to be about real people's lives. I think it's going to be about her looking through archives and stuff. So I think it's got different sorts of media in it. I just heard really good things about her books. As I say, I almost picked this one up before. So when I saw it for like £2, I was like, okay, I need to just get this. There was a charity shop that had like so many of Primo Levi's books, and I recently read The Periodic Table and I like absolutely fell in love with it. And last year I read If This Is a Man and The Truce. They're like 2 books. They're normally sort of, you can buy them together. I love his writing. Like, he is a Holocaust survivor. That's what If This Is a Man is about. It's about his time in Auschwitz. The Truce is about his journey home from Auschwitz, which was also like, it was crazy. And then The Periodic Table was a collection of short stories about his life working as a chemist, and sort of just stories from throughout his life, which I just loved, like, he was so interesting. I know nothing about chemistry, but just like hearing him talk about all of the different jobs he's had as a chemist, it was just amazing, and his writing style is so good. So this book really appealed to me. This is Other People's Trades, which I've never actually heard of before. I think that the other most famous books by him are The Drowned and the Saved, and he's also got a book called The Wrench, which I've heard about. I'd never heard of this one, but this is him. It's 43 essays originally written for newspaper publication, and it's basically, it says it's incursions into other people's trades, poachings in the private hunting preserves, forays into the boundless territories of zoology, astronomy, and linguistics. So I think it's literally like essays about people's jobs, which sounds fascinating, especially because I really liked the periodic table, which was about like his jobs. So I thought he's really good at writing that sort of thing, these sort of human interest narratives. He manages to make all of his characters very quirky but believable. So I just think that him looking at different people's jobs will be fascinating. It's quite short, and it's quite a cool edition as well, so I'm really excited to get to this one. Lastly, for myself, I bought the Autobiography of My Mother by Jamaica Kincaid. Jamaica Kincaid is an author that I've actually not read any of her books yet, but this is another one where I've broken my own rule, because I have Lucy on my bookcase, and I literally bought it off of a secondhand website like 2 weeks ago, because I've wanted to read Jamaica Kincaid for so long, but I've never been able to find her in any secondhand bookshops, and my library doesn't have any books by her, and neither did my last library when I lived in Edinburgh, which seemed crazy because, you know, she's a very famous author. So I finally picked up Lucy, and it's really short, and I have actually started reading it and I'm loving it. So I just thought, when I saw this book by her, I've never seen a book by her at a charity shop. It was only £2, and I really do think that I'm going to like Jamaica Kincaid as a writer, so I'm willing to take a chance on this one. So this is, I think, a story about her mother growing up in Dominica. I think it might be quite sad. Jamaica Kincaid is from Antigua, I believe. So yeah, she's a Caribbean writer, and yeah, I really want to get to her book. She has written quite a lot of well-known books, this being one of her most famous, I think. And yeah, it's just a book that's been on my radar for so long. And then I got 2 books from my dad as well. It's Father's Day on Sunday, and I'm going out for lunch with my dad, so I wanted to pick him something up. My dad has recently retired, and since then he's found a lot more time for reading, so I thought that books would be a good option. So I picked up a couple of books that I've really enjoyed that I think you'll like. I got both of these in toppings. So the first one I picked up is A Death in the Family by Knausgaard. I love Knausgaard. I really love the My Struggle series, especially the first book. Like, I think the first book is incredible. It's a great introduction to the series. It's about the death of his father and sort of his childhood growing up. I think my dad will really like the writing style in this. It's so propulsive and readable. But also, I think Knausgaard's about the same age as my dad. A lot of the stuff when he was talking about his childhood sort of reminded me of stuff that my dad's talked about. Like, he was really into music, usually into football. So I think that my dad will get a lot out of this. It's like, yeah, he's definitely shares a lot of similar interests, and I think that this will just suck him in. So I'm hopeful for this one, because if he does like this one, then he can go on and read the whole series. And I have the rest of the books, so he can just borrow them from my bookcase. So that seems like a good present. And the other one I got is A Swim in a Pond in the Rain by George Saunders. I really loved this book when I read it a couple of years ago. This is George Saunders talking about Russian short stories. So it includes 8 different short stories, I believe. So it's got stories from Chekhov, Turgenev, Tolstoy, and Gogol. And it sort of shares the short stories, and then it almost has like an essay discussing why it works as a short story. I don't know if my dad reads much in terms of short stories, but I know he does like Russian literature. So I think this is just a really interesting book if you want to learn more about the sort of craft of writing. And it's just a really fun book. Like, George Saunders' love of literature really shines through in this. So I just thought that was a good one to pick him up. So hopefully he really likes both of these. So yeah, that's all of the books I got in Edinburgh. And my plan when I went down was to see if I could pick up any books from my summer TBR. I made a video where I was talking about 9 books I wanted to read this summer. I did not manage to find any of them. I might be able to find Cancer Ward by Aleksander Solzenitsyn. I did not, but there are so many of his books in the charity shops, but just not that book. Like, because I've now made that video, I'm like, no, I really want to read that book specifically. I don't just want to pick up another random book he's written. So I didn't get any of those. I have got some of them reserved from the library, so I'm not like, and my birthday is coming up, so I'm sure I'll be able to pick them up. But yeah, I just really love going secondhand book shopping, and partly because you don't know what you're going to find. Like, you go in with an idea of what you're looking for, and then you find things you've never heard of. So I just find it really exciting. So yes, those are the 9 books that I bought for myself and the 2 books I bought for my dad in Edinburgh. I don't imagine I'll have any big book hauls for a while now. That should really keep me going between that and all of my physical TBR and the library book holds that I have. But you never know, the next time I take a trip to Edinburgh or Glasgow, I will probably pick up some more books. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and stick around for more.